I have one sutta here and a few questions. Is paying attention to pleasant breathing sensations a valid practice for developing of the right view?
No, absolutely not.
And it seems that that kind of practice, to pay attention to pleasant breathing sensations, seems to be just another sensual act. I know it's not the same as a sexual act, but it's still a pleasant physical act that one can absorb into and therefore try to escape suffering through pleasure, which is the point of any sensual act.
It is. Any sensations basically is just another word for tactile. So it means it's a tactile sense that comes on the base of your body, and even if it's not necessarily pleasant, if your practice is just to attend to the sensations of the tactile nature, which is the nature of sensations, there are no sensations that are not tactile. People often tend to assume sensations are like Vedana and feelings, but they're not. They're completely tactile, like sensation of things touching your skin, or sensations on the inside of your body that you can have a tactile sense of. So observing sensations, it's always going to be on the level of perception. So sensations can never be feelings. Because as the suttas say, what is feeling? Well, feeling is that which feels. And what is perception? Perception is that which perceives. So perception perceives, feeling feels. But people kind of, through that kind of muddleness of their own understanding and information, while they're perceiving a mere tactile sensations, they think they're being mindful of Vedana, of feeling, which is always completely the opposite direction of where your attention is. So expecting that the right view would come on a kind of close watching of tactile sensations, you can see how mistaken that is on so many levels. It implies the truth comes from just magical appearance through your senses, like beyond your senses, and that presents itself through some practice of observation. But that's not understanding. That's just witnessing a random thing that then you believe to be your enlightenment or Sotapati or whatever else. But if you read the suttas, there's no mention of that whatsoever. It starts with the gradual training, withdrawal from unwholesome, and then discerning. Skillful is skillful and unskillful is unskillful. Recognizing the root of the unwholesome, discerning it, fully understanding it, not feeding it through your ignorant actions and wrong attention. And that's how you undo the entire samsara. Through that diligent work of abstaining from things that should be abstained and cultivating things that should be cultivated. And you could see how the modern practice of sensation watching, as I often said, it's like staring at the. As I often said, it's like staring at the basically trying to hunt down the moment where the truth will just magically reveal itself. And you could see how that idea would be popular because it kind of does away with all the tedious part of pain and development that you have to go through, as with anything new that you're learning and picking up a craft and a skill and understanding. So all I need to do is just get closer and closer and closer to my sensation watching, to observing the tactile things on the basis of my body, and then the truth will just hit me and I'm just going to have a magical experience. And then from then onwards everything will be fine. And it's completely circumstantial, random, and as I said, it does not exist in the suttas at all. At least not in the early suttas that we talked about. The later developments of Buddhism, they might have developed their own scripture to support this. Certainly commentaries invented this whole thing, starting from Buddhaghosa and Visuddhimagga, and Abhidhamma before that, but that's not found in the suttas. The path of purification, how they call it, was very clear. The gradual training, and he said, the Buddha said, if anybody, even in the past, would have attained liberation or anything approximating liberation, they would have had to do it only through this way, of purifying virtue, your actions, and full understanding of the intentions, which are the root of karma, basically. And if somebody claims that they can develop full enlightenment, purification. Apart from this, such thing is not possible. So you ask yourself, like, when you're watching your sensations, what are you implying? What are you emphasizing? What do you expect to happen? What do you expect to occur? And then see whether it aligns with these ideas that you can broadly find in the suttas without any kind of great effort of insight and understanding. Just through being informed with the suttas, you get the general sense of what practice kind of boils down to, and then see, is that what you're expecting? Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're expecting to happen when you're watching your sensations and committed to like concentrating harder and harder and harder? I mean, I often quoted that sutta, which was actually two suttas that I kind of joined into one, where the Buddha compared any such meditation to sensuality. He says premeditate, mismeditate, over-meditate, under-meditate. Basically, when you're wrongly attending to your objects, if you're expecting your meditation, your samadhi, to come out of focusing on an object, it's already a form of meditation with sensuality, because you're emphasizing the object of your senses, tactile. And then in another sutta, the Mara uses the same wording of premeditate, mismeditate, over-meditate, and then he adds this similes to illustrate that, saying, oh, it's like a jackal hunting down a mouse, waiting for it to appear to pounce on, or an owl, a fish, and things like that.
This is my novelty experience. This must be my...
You are expecting a novelty experience to come, and then when you get it, then that's a success. You caught it. You hunted it down. You got it now. But as I said, that direction, and I'm not denying the reality of that, by the way.
With the mouse.
The reality of novelty experiences. Oh, you can get loads. What I'm saying is the Dhamma practice is completely the opposite direction from that. So where your attention is, when you are focusing on your tactile sensations, watching moment to moment, expecting kalapas to reveal the truth to you, and so on, the Dhamma, the understanding, would be completely at the back of that where you are not looking.
So would you say that what you mean there is you need to be able to understand the nature of experience?
You need to be able to understand the nature of your intentions, which begins through purifying your bodily behavior, verbal behavior and mental behavior. So you are responsible for your thoughts, which ones you welcome, which ones you cultivate, which ones you allow to sort of linger around, and which ones you ignore. But most people don't even see that. They might be able to take on the precepts, keep the physical restraint, maybe police their speech a bit better and so on, but mentally they're just subjected to what their mind thinks, and then they just try to get rid of it, get rid of these thoughts. But either way, they don't see that they are actually responsible for them. So that's the gradual training, that then once your behavior and virtue has been established, you get to notice kind of the same pattern. If you're looking at things rightly, you have to notice the same pattern regarding your thoughts, which is the pattern of, oh, so there is a thought arisen, I haven't created it, the possibility presented itself to do this or to not do that. Which one do I relish? Which one do I emphasize? Which one do I lean towards? Which one do I cultivate? Which one do I welcome? So I remove the welcoming. I say, no, I should not welcome that. But I don't try to get rid of it. I don't try to deny it. I don't try to focus away and pretend it's not there. I basically take responsibility for the pressure that thought exerts on me without trying to destroy the thought, because that would be already overstepping into Mara's domain.
So if I just go to another question, can I not use such a practice of focusing on pleasant breathing to replace my coarse sensual acts? If I find joy in simple attention to the breath, I hope that my mind will want that pleasure instead of other dangerous pleasures. I hope to find a pleasure which is separate from sensuality, so that I can experience the joy of Jhana. So that's the
idea. That's the basic idea. It is. See, the problem with that idea is that person, whoever asked that, they admit that focusing on the sensual pleasure of the breath is better than coarse sensuality. But what they don't understand is that the danger of coarse sensuality is still present in the danger of your sensual breath. Because the danger of sensual desire is not because they're coarse or subtle. It's because they pertain to the body. It's because they're tactile, because they're physical. The senses are Mara's domain. So fundamentally, what you would be doing in such practice is replacing one thing within Mara's domain with a subtler thing within Mara's domain, and thinking you're avoiding the danger of the Mara's domain, while still remaining very much within the same domain, unchanged. That's why in the Anguttara Nikaya, can't remember, maybe we can quote it, I don't remember the numbers. It was basically what the Buddha said, that that one could enter and abide, develop the first jhana, without having already fully seen the gratification, danger and escape in regard to sensuality and the 5 hindrances in general. Such thing is not possible. So first you need to see that danger pertaining to anything that you would be attending for pleasure, and completely abandon that attitude. Then, and only then, the pleasure of jhana can arise, when you don't look for it, don't need it, don't seek it. And that's why that pleasure of jhana that's not being sought in that sensual manner is the pleasure that's not underlined by the underlying tendencies, as the suttas would say.
Not in Mara's domain.
It's not in Mara's domain.
So from these questions, it seems like you're suffering, you want to get rid of, free from suffering, get rid of suffering. You want to get right view. So instead of doing all these coarse, unwholesome actions, sexual actions, you go into these subtle actions of, doesn't hurt anyone, in a coarse manner. Might be the wrong view and so on. But it's still the same. I want pleasure to get pleasure, because I'm suffering. And pleasure is the freedom.
It's inevitable that a person will be doing it to some extent. In other words, if you are withdrawn from unwholesome things, the coarse unwholesome things, say you're celibate, keeping the precepts and so on, you will be finding, sensual, semi-sensual joy in other things on your day-to-day basis. Like going for a walk, doing this or doing that. It's not always, but it could be sensual in that sense. But that's not the main issue. If you continue with the purification of behavior, if you don't revert back to the coarse, unwholesome, clearly unwholesome pleasures, this will kind of level itself out. The issue is, if you were to think that, for example, the pleasure of a nice walk in the nature, peaceful, beautiful sounds, birds chirping, if you were to hold the view that is your jhana, is the practice of Dhamma, is getting rid of the sensuality. That's really the problem. So see, if a person is watching their breath, as I said many times, to calm down because they were agitated or whatever else, but without implying with their view, with their emphasis, that this is the practice of samadhi and jhana and right view, there would be no problem, really.
But this will lead me to...
Exactly, it's the implication behind that action, which is that, this is the practice that takes me away from sensuality, which it doesn't, into the right view that will then magically happen through the novelty pleasure that will arise on account of this refined sensuality. And it's like, that's the problem. It's your view there. But if you don't have that view, and then you watch your breath because you're bored or something, fine. It's not going to take you too far out. It's not going to sort of corrupt you. But you realize more often than not, when people ask these questions, they don't ask them mutually. They don't ask them in this sense. They ask them is this a valid practice for enlightenment, for uprooting of sensuality, for becoming anagami? And as I said, it's a categorical no.